What's going on? Now, you absolutely know I have to make a video talking about this matter right here. Still, animators are getting shafted. Still, after all that money that they're making, they still find a way to not pay artists what they're worth. Let's talk about it. Alright, so buckle up. So yeah man, what's going on? Been a minute. I haven't really had time to make videos like this all the time. Just busy working on animation every other day, plus my day job. So being a YouTuber, it's been challenging, and I wouldn't even class myself as a YouTuber anyway, because I don't make videos nearly as much as I should in order to qualify to be a YouTuber. But every so often, I feel the need to make a video talking about things as it pertains to being an animator slash illustrator slash independent artist, whatever category you want to put me in. But when it came to this subject, I needed to speak on it. Now, as you know, everyone's been talking about the Spiderverse, Miles Morales, like the second Spider-Man, like, you know, the Black Spider-Man, as it were. The first one was good. The second one was dope. Really good. I liked the way that it had the different art styles. I love the way that it kind of just represented like a black boy for like other people to look up to. I mean, I'm not going to get too hung up on the fact that black superheroism is something I've been doing for years, and these mainstream companies like Disney, Marvel, whoever, well, the same thing, DC, whatever, they could have capitalized off of the whole black superhero thing and pushed that narrative out a long time ago, but they didn't. But as a result of all the underground artists, that would include myself, but lots of other people that, you know who they are. They've been doing like the black superhero thing for ages, and people don't really pay that much attention, not in the mainstream anyway. But ever since Black Panther, more people pay attention to it. But my argument would be that people don't necessarily like black superheroes. They like black superheroes made by Disney slash Marvel slash DC, whoever else, mainstream companies basically. But like independent projects made by like artists that are more less known, shall I say? Not more or less known, but you know what I mean, less known. People don't really give them a time of day. They want like commercial characters. So yeah, that's the thing. It just is what it is. I'm not bitter about it no more. I used to be, but you just move on from it. But now we're going to talk about the actual infrastructure and how the whole process of animation is, and how even though you got a big blockbuster movie like, you know, Enter the Spiderverse that makes lots and lots of money, still animators are getting shafted. Still, after all that money that they're making, they still find a way to not pay artists what they're worth. Let's talk about it by reading this article here. So let's go. Now, this is an article written by Jamie Lang. It was dated on the 23rd of June, 223. Now, starts off. Across the Spiderverse, artists raise concerns about unsustainable work conditions. Sony's last animated Spider-Man flick is a hit with critics and fans alike, and passed $500 million mark at the box office this week. All is not well in the Spider-Verse, however, at least according to the quartet of artists who worked on the recent Spider sequel. In an expansive report published by Vulture, the four anonymous artists, notice how they're anonymous, that's important, who use pseudonyms for the piece, outlined a work culture they believe is unsustainable, and which led to more than 100 artists leaving their jobs mid-production. Now, before I continue to read, notice how they're making themselves anonymous. The reason they're doing that is because they don't want to be blocked from working on future projects. Because if you blow the whistle on these companies about how they're treating their staff, and people don't like that in terms of like people in the company, the higher ups, you're not going to work in the industry again. So they're going to be mad quiet about it. We're getting closer and closer to the reason that I prefer being a freelancer, but I digress. I've had that rant countless times online. YouTube, in person, at panels, whatever. But here we are. So even though these people have worked on big projects, here we have a situation where, you know, people are still being, you know, mistreated as far as artists are concerned, not being paid, overworked, all the rest of it. Anyway, let me continue. The individuals that spoke with Vulture were particularly critical of Phil Lord's management style, claiming that he has trouble conceptualizing 3D animation. They also said that he would make rewrites and demand revisions on fully rendered work, right up to the end of production. Now, let me tell you what that means. So imagine I've animated a scene for you. You're someone who's hired me to work on an animated project. It might just be a short thing. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you're into animation, you're familiar with what a storyboard is. You're familiar with what an animatic is. Now, a storyboard is obviously just like, you know, you draw out the story so that you can kind of visualize what's going on. And then an animatic is like the storyboards, but it's like a rough animation. So instead of actually drawing a run cycle, for example, I just do like a motion tween of like a character moving. It's a still image moving from one point to the next, just to get the rough idea of how long it's going to take from them to get to point A to point B. That's just an example. Some examples on the screen. Now, at this point, this is where you say, you know what? I prefer if he's running more in the background, or I prefer he's running more in the foreground, or a close-up of him running. Or maybe I just want to show his feet when he's running, that kind of thing. But this is the stage, at the animatic stage at least, and possibly the storyboard stage, but definitely the animatic stage. That's where you would point that out. What's happened to me in the past and what's happened here is they've waited until they've rendered everything. So they've added the fine line in, they've added the color, the tone, the special effects, the lighting, everything you can imagine. Probably the sound as well. And then they've decided, you know what? Nah, I don't like that. Can we do that again, please? Or change it? And I'm like, bruh, like, no, you cannot do that after so much work has taken place. Let me give you an analogy. It's a bit like working on a bathroom and you're redecorating and you're relaying the tiles on the floor and the wall. And then after you've relayed these tiles and, you know, you've got it all, you know, you've picked the tiles that you want, you like them, but it gets on the wall and gets on the floor and you've put it down, plastered it down, and you think, nah, I don't like this cream colour of tile that I've used. I'd rather have close to like magnolia or yellow. What are you going to do? Take up all the tiles again? And you get my point. That's what it's like when people get you to do revisions in animation after you've done all of the, you know, the bells and whistles, the glitz and glamour, after you've added all the good stuff. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like having a revision. And any artist will tell you they hate doing revisions. That's why we charge for them, because it's like, if you want those kind of charges, if you want them kind of changes, we're going to charge you for those. You know what I mean? Just as simple as that. And then you'll be surprised. Once people know that you charge for it and how much, depending how much you charge, all of a sudden those changes people wanted, they don't want them as much no more. Anyway, that was just my little rant, but a little example of what I'm talking about. But anyway, as we continue. Where was I? Right, so interestingly, Lord's longtime colleague and creative partner Chris Miller managed to escape criticism in the piece. The article indicates that while Lord was extremely involved in the film's production, often overruling decisions made by the film's three directors, can't pronounce his name, but Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justice K. Thompson. Miller's name didn't pop up often at the studio until the last couple of months of production. According to the artist, many workers were forced to sit idly by for 3 to 6 months in 2021 while Lord worked on the film during its layout stage. Now, when you're a creative person, you don't really want to just be sitting there doing nothing. You want to make use of your creative buzz, especially if you're excited to work on a project like Spider-Man or what have you. So you can imagine how frustrated someone is when they're just sitting there waiting, basically. Things like that kind of create a situation where not only does it lower morale, but it kind of, a bit like how writers get writer's block, artists get artist block. You're not in the mood to draw, you're not really in the, like, you're just not feeling it no more. And that's what things like that will do. Anyway, let's continue. Where was I? Yeah. One of the animators said that these issues are what pushed Across the Spider-Verse from its original October 2022 release date back to June of this year, not COVID, as it was first reported. The artist also insisted that there was no way Beyond the Spider-Verse will be ready for its currently scheduled March 29 release. 29th of March, that is. Regarding the slowdowns in production, Charlie said, the biggest issue we've had is the writing. Phil had no idea what he wanted. Maybe he has difficulties making up his mind. I don't know. In addition to Phil being all over the place and not settling on the story, he has a big issue with not being able to visualize layouts. When there's a 3D layout in front of him, I guess he can't visualize what it's going to look like afterward. Which is kind of a problem when you're working in 3D animation. Shout out to all my 3D animator friends, because I can only imagine how frustrating that must be. I'm 2D, but anyway. This meant that Lord preferred to edit fully rendered sequences. I've already spoke about that. The crew members said this often led to requests from alterations to already approved animated sequences. Elliot said the delays had the demoralizing effect on the crew. Of course. We were idle. That's what they called it. And that was probably the biggest demotivator for a lot of people. Some of them had been flown over to Vancouver, gotten an apartment to work on this movie, and then sat on their hands for maybe 3 months. The worst thing you can do to an artist is hire them and then tell them to do nothing. The delays weren't only part of the production that had a negative effect on artists. Stefan spoke about the emotional toll of having to redo finish shots again and again. Saying, I do genuinely think it's a good movie, but that being said, it's been debilitating for a lot of the artists involved. Morale was incredibly low. See that? Morale? Mars Morales. Anyway. Morale was incredibly low, and a lot of people reassessed if this was even something they wanted to be a part of. It's this perceptual, emotional give and take that's very stressful. It absolutely affects people's lives, sleep schedules, energy levels, the burnout. Well, don't even get me started on sleep and burnout when it comes to animation, because I'll be doing animation while I'm doing my day job. Like, for real, I'll be at work when I've got a minute, and because I don't go nowhere without my laptop, and I'll just be working on something. You know, you've seen the animations I've been working on, some in the background playing and what have you, but that's like a passion project that I'm working on. And it's like, I just decided to do that because of things like this. I don't like my creative flow being interrupted. Anyway, let's continue. According to Sony, more than 1,000 artists worked on the film, which means around 90% made it to the end of the production. Stefan explained why he thinks that so many people stayed around despite poor conditions. A lot stayed on just so they could make sure their work survived until the end. Because if it gets changed, it's no longer yours. I know people who were on the project for over a year who left, and now they have little to show for it because everything was changed. Wow. Charlie had a similar theory because it's such a cool project. People want to get their shots in. They want to finish them and make sure it's in the movie and they can keep it on the reel. That's their show reel. The hardest thing on the animators has not been working 11 hours a day, 70 hours a week. It's been the wasted work and the frustration of putting in that many hours just to see it changed or thrown away. Nathan also criticised how Sony compensated new artists who were brought in to work on the film. Sony lowballs them on their salary, with the promise that overtime pay will boost their income to the level that it should be. Sounds like my day job. It's important to recognise here that Sony Pictures Imageworks, SPI, the studio which handled the actual animation of Across the Spider-Verse, operates as an independent vendor that is contracted by Sony Pictures Animation. And that SPI is not a union studio. You see this little game that companies play, like they outsource things and they get someone else to work on it, or they get another company to do it, and then straight away they duck liability for when certain things happen, whether it's sick leave or maternity leave, holiday, and like, see, this is the games they play. Like, this is why sometimes when corporations collide with creativity, it's a problem. It's a problem because again, things like this will demotivate you. And it makes you question if you want to be an artist in the first place. And then you just end up giving up, going back to doing a day job, and then thinking, you know what? I'm going through the same bureaucracy that I was going through in my day job that I am working in this creative industry. Boy, I feel their pain, man. Where was I? So, yeah. It operates as an independent vendor that is contracted by Sony Pictures Animation, and the SPI is not a union studio. SPI's wage structure caused a stir back in May when the company launched a new studio in Montreal, listing positions for animators, compositors, and lighters, all of which had starting salaries of $22.50 an hour. Sony representatives also spoke with Vulture to defend the production of Across the Spider-Verse. Although Lord himself is not quoted in the piece, Sony Pictures Imageworks Executive Vice President and General Manager Michelle Grady said that the 4 artists who chose to speak out are not representative of most of the people who worked on film, and that the number of revisions that artists were asked to make was not out of the ordinary. Stop right there. No. Stop right there. You see, I haven't worked in the industry like that. I certainly didn't work on the Spider-Verse, but this is common. What it is, clients, and I assume big clients because they've got the money, they will get trigger happy with their revisions. Mad trigger happy. And they'll start treating you like you're a pen. So you know what? Maybe we can have it this way and move it to the left, move it to the right, change the colour. All these changes, it adds up and it takes time. Sometimes when you're adding changes on things like colour, though, in certain cases, it's not that big a deal. But again, it's when people start getting complacent with the things that they want changed. So all of a sudden, change this, change that, change. They think it's easy because they're just verbalizing it. Even myself, people will be in my inbox sending me a message thinking that just by sending me a DM, I can churn out your idea into an episode of Young Justice in a week. Like, rappers do this a lot. Like, they'll want a music video and be like, yeah, my video comes out in 2 weeks. Can you do me an animated music video? Bruh, it does not work like that. It's going to take way longer than that. And furthermore, I'm pretty sure you don't even really know what you want anyway. There needs to be writing done, storyboards, animatics, and I haven't even mentioned character and prop design, but... So it just goes to show it happens in the industry as well. We continue on. It really does happen on every film, she said. Truly, honestly, it can be a little bit frustrating, but we always try to explain that this is the process. No, it ain't. Amy Pascal, former Sony Pictures Entertainment chairperson and producer of Spider-Verse 1 and 2, defended Lord's management style, saying, "One of the things about animation that makes it such a wonderful thing to work on is that you get to keep going until the story is right. If the story isn't right, you have to keep going until it is." Pascal's response to the workers who felt demoralized by having to revise final renders several times may not go over well with the artists, I guess. "Welcome to making a movie," she told Vulture. No. It's not a case of making a movie. No. Because again, when you're doing freelance animation and someone does that, you're charging them for revisions. But when you're working for a big studio like this, what, you're going to tell them to pay you more? You already heard what they're paying you. $22.50 an hour. You don't get to tell them, well, I want an extra $10 an hour for these revisions that I spent 5 hours doing. It don't work like that in the industry like that. It works as far as when you're doing freelance animation, you tell people, because at that point, revisions and the fact that you charge for revisions, it works like a deterrent, because they'll be like, oh, you know what, he's going to charge me. Let me just settle for what I've got. But again, and the thing is, they've got the money, so they've made all this money from the project, and loads of people watched it. Some of my friends watched it more than once at the cinema, so it made mad peace. But again, they've got all this money, then pay the revisions for all the extra work you're getting these people to do. And it kind of goes back to what, this is why so many people are anti-capitalists, because what I basically come to, my conclusion of this is, even though you have these big projects that make so much money, they make money not just because the product sells. They make money because their profit margin is increased, because they're lowballing their artists. You heard the term lowballing used in the article. But they lowball their artists and in some cases don't pay them, because I'm pretty sure there's people working as free interns on this. 100% believe that. So they're making their money on that end as well, while they're making millions. Sucks. Where was I? Yeah. You have to keep going until it is. Pascal's response to the workers who felt demoralized, I read that part, is, I guess, welcome to the making of a movie, she told Vulture. That's actually the article done. It was a short one. But this is like what I've been saying for a long time when it comes to like, not even just animation, just illustration as well. And I dare say filmmakers go through the same thing, cameramen and what have you. Because I know people that's worked on like music videos and what have you. And then the client will say, oh, you know what? I didn't really like how it looked. Can we do it again? But usually on a music video, when you do every take, you'll kind of show them on the film, like you'll show them the shots that you've taken. And they'll be watching it literally there and then. Like you're still on the set. And you might say, you know what, can we just do that one again? But it's all right, cool. Because we're all here now. Let's just, take one, take two. That's cool. But to want to do it again after we've all went home, it happens. Certain, like, if there's any music video makers out there, videographers that's watching this, give us a comment and give us like a comment in the comment section. Let us know if that's happened to you. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that happens, and it's got to the point where artists are no longer tolerating this kind of thing no more, and I don't blame them. And this is ultimately why I made a decision to not really do commissions anymore. There's a select few that I do commissions for if they ask me, because I know them and we've got a rapport, because I've known them over the years and they know how I work and I know how they work. But generally, when people kind of get at me now and say, oh, you know what, I'd like such and such, I'll be like, nah. It's more trouble than it's worth. And the kind of money that these people usually are talking, plus the kind of revisions that they're going to be making and the time it will take, it ends up not being worth it. So, and then again, and it ends up demotivating you from working on other things like your own projects and what have you. So I think where I'm going with this is that basically, even though you got people working on big films, this still happens. The same nonsense that we deal with as freelance artists, with flaky clients and people that change their mind, is happening in the mainstream as well, as you can see. So I don't know what point it's actually gonna, I don't know when we're gonna get to that point where we actually say enough is enough. Because ultimately a lot of artists are what you could call starving artists. And they're looking for that break. So they're going to work on a project regardless, because, I mean, who wouldn't want to work on a Spider-Man film? And Miles Morales as well, like the Black Spider-Man. You're going to want to do that. But it's almost like surviving being an animator. Like how they say surviving R. Kelly or something. It's like just the morale and the toll it must take on you, and it can almost make you hate your craft. I've been in situations like that. I'm not going to throw no clients under the bus because I've been more direct to people and I've just told them how I feel directly. Like, nah, you know what, I'm not feeling that. You know what I mean? But it's a lesson learned. But I think if you're an animator yourself and you're doing this kind of thing, I think you really need to consider how you communicate with clients in terms of what it is. Because what I do now, even though I'm not taking commissions, but what I was doing for a period of time, and even when people ask me, I explain it to them. I say, listen, if you want a music video, and it's not just from me and anyone, it would make more sense if you build up your asset library first. So if you're thinking of doing a music video, maybe go to a designer and get him to do some character designs for you first, of all the people that you want in your music video, or your cards, whatever it is that you're making. And just have that so you've got a visual representation. I know a lot of people are doing the whole AI art thing, so they're using the AI art generators to kind of generate their ideas. In a way, even though I'm not a fan of AI art, that kind of does help, because it gets a lot of time wasters out of your hair and makes them go and focus on just fiddling around with the prompts and making up their own designs so they can get a concept of what they want. But sooner or later, you're going to need to go to an artist to do a real render of it, because taking it further, I mean, I know there's AI animations and stuff, but it hasn't got to that stage yet. So, but I don't know, man. Like, again, this is one of the reasons I don't really do commissions no more, like I said. And it's really disheartening to know that you can work on a project as big as Spider-Man and something like that can happen. Because what that tells us is no matter how big you get, you're still going to need to deal with this kind of BS. I don't know, man. I'm eager to know what some of you guys think, though. I think moving forward, as I said, any artists out there, just learn how to communicate with your clients well and make it clear to them, like, look, this is my rate and this is the stages. What I do, I tell people, like, look, if you want this, or what I did, I'm going to have to do the character designs first. That's stage 1. Then I'm going to have to do the storyboards. Then I'm going to do an animatic. And then I'm going to do the proper animation. So that's 4 stages. And I let them know that stages 1, 2, and 3, those are the important ones. Be as picky as you want at that stage, but bear in mind as well, if you want to be mad picky, just know it's going to take longer. Because another question that I kind of get from people is, how long does it take? I don't know. Like an animation with just one person walking down the street and driving a car and spitting lyrics is going to be a lot quicker than me drawing or animating a drill video of 5 different MCs in 5 different locations talking about 5 different, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it depends on so many things. So I hate that question so much. How long does it take? I think that's almost a strong contender for being the most hated question, second place from when people ask me, what software do you use? Yeah, we hate that question. I beg you, stop. Just stop. Please, I beg. Anyway, I'm going to say once again, I'll try to make more videos. I really will try, but I can't guarantee it. I mean, this video might even be a first take just to see how it looks, but let's see how we go, innit? Anyway, don't forget, do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, share, subscribe, and it's not like we don't all know how to use YouTube, so do I even need to say that? But, you know. Oh yeah, also, don't forget, stay tuned for the project that I'm working on called Here's What I'm Saying. It's an animated comedy series set in a barbershop and a hairdresser's. So, almost like Desmond's, kind of. Those that remember Desmond's, remember that? Yeah, so this is set in a barbershop, set in a hairdresser's. I decided to go down this road because it's a more tongue-in-cheek way of talking about some of the issues that enough of us talk about. I didn't want to be one of these alpha males making a little podcast talking about all the things I think and, you know, the ills of women and whatnot. So I just decided, you know what, let's just do a little comedy thing and talk about it that way. Some of you might have noticed some of the images in my community tab, some of the characters in there. Shout out to Prince in Celebrity. I wonder if you can guess who that is. And also, part of the segment of the animated series, Here's What I'm Saying, I've got a part called the Pearly Way podcast. Now, if you're from London, you know where Pearly Way is. But if you're on these YouTube streets, you kind of know who I'm kind of sort of doing a parody of. But I'll leave that for you to work out. Anyway, go check out my previous videos. Go check out some of my animations that I put up and tell me what you think. And share with your friends. And if you're an animator and you're doing similar stuff to me, get at me, man. Got to network some more and, you know, just share the love, share the work and everything. Because I believe that really and truly animators are kind of introverted and we don't really connect with each other that much. I don't even think animators talk that much. I mean, there's a few that I follow, but generally speaking, outside of YouTube and what have you, I've been to a few events, they're really quiet. But anyway, like I said, like, comment, share, subscribe and all that jazz. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.